Good evening. I would like to call to order the July 18, 2023 Little Rock City Board of Directors meeting. I'd like to welcome those in attendance as well as those watching at home or streaming online. Madam Clerk, if you would, please call the roll.
Director Miller.
Here.
Director Richardson.
Here.
Director Peck. Director Hines.
Present.
Director Lewis.
Here.
Director Wyrick. Director Compuris. Director Phillips.
Present.
Director Adcock.
Present.
Vice Mayor Webb.
Here.
Mayor Scott.
Here. Let me now recognize City Director Lance Hines, who will give the invocation.
Thank you, Mayor. Please bow your heads. Dear Lord, we gather here today to take on the business of the city of Little Rock and its residents and employees, those who commute and work here and live here. We seek your divine guidance in all that we do this evening. Please show yourself to us and show us your will. In your son's name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Please stand for Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Oh yeah, why I'm froze? You see that?
All right, we'll now have a presentation on the Heat Watch campaign from Little Rock Sustainability Office. Ms. Lenny Massinelli and Ms. Brittany Nichols, or just Ms. Lenny?
It's both of us.
Both.
Good evening. I'm Lenny Massinelli, Sustainability Officer for the City of Little Rock, and I'm here with Brittany Nichols, Sustainability Educator for the city. We'd like to thank Director Peck for helping us bring the Heat Watch campaign to the board meeting tonight, and to all the Little Rock citizens who have already signed up to volunteer for this important project. We're very excited that Little Rock was chosen by the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration to be one of only 17 communities selected nationwide to participate in the 2023 Urban Heat Island Mapping Campaign. Special shout out to Brittany, who sought after and applied for this heat mapping study for the city of Little Rock. So what is an urban heat island effect? And why do we want to take part in this campaign? Well, I have no doubt that everyone in Little Rock has been feeling the heat as temperatures have repeatedly hit triple digits this summer, like today. This heat can vary between 15 and 20 degrees Fahrenheit, depending on where it's experienced in the city. Concrete and asphalt, for example, absorb more heat, more energy and heat up more quickly than natural surfaces like grass or forest. High temperatures affect human health, increasing the risk of cardiovascular disease, heat stroke, dehydration, and heat-related deaths. The consequences are worse for vulnerable groups such as our elderly neighbors, the very young, or people with chronic illnesses. The National Integrated Heat Health Information System works with cities across the U.S. to provide funding for urban heat mapping. Federal partners in this program, that's in its 7th year, include the CDC, NOAA, EPA, HUD, FEMA, DHS, OSHA, among others. The Heat Watch campaign is a mapping project that will collect data on humidity and temperature throughout multiple areas of Little Rock. It requires community engagement, as we'll need many volunteers to drive the routes and collect heat data using special sensors. Many of our southeastern neighbors, like New Orleans and Atlanta, have already taken advantage of this opportunity, but Little Rock is the first Arkansas community to ever participate in this campaign.
I just tried to send that presentation again. So how does this work? I'm going to make it sound very technical, but the takeaway message is it's really very simple for our volunteers. What we're doing is this total campaign will be about 3 months. We met with the National Weather Service office and we identified some of those target dates, which we want to see really hot days. For us, that means temperatures averaging above 94 degrees. So that window that was identified was between July, July and August. So we've set the campaign date as August 19th. We are working with our technical advisor, Kappa Strategies, to design the driving routes, which are all sized at about 10 square miles. And we've recruited a team of partners, our HEAT team, that has helped us with the organizing efforts and volunteer recruitment. During the campaign day, we will have heat data collected all across the city by driving those 12 routes. Sensors will be mounted onto passenger vehicles that have been provided through this technical assistance, and our volunteers will capture over 50,000 temperature and humidity measurements. We'll then return those sensors, and Kappa Strategies will analyze that data, model the heat index across the city, and create a report. Heat islands will be identified from that report, and essentially those areas are the parts of our town that do not cool down as compared to other areas. When are we doing this? Like I just said, August 19th. We'll run routes in the morning, afternoon, and evening. Where are we doing this? We're doing this all across the city. So every route is designed to cover that 10 square miles, and we are mapping all 123 square miles of the city. Why are we doing this? Like previous campaign cities, will use this data to inform a heat mitigation strategy and apply for federal grant opportunities. We know that climate-induced weather events have the most profound effect on those who have least access to financial resources, historically underserved communities, and those struggling with additional health conditions. We can use this data to improve essential services like our cooling centers. Our aging infrastructure is also at risk with increasing energy costs and limited resources to install much-needed energy conservation measures. We can use this data to prioritize high-impact actions. This study and its subsequent programming will help the Sustainability Office refocus dialogue around the communities and infrastructures facing the most significant threat from increasing intensity, duration, and frequency of extreme heat.
So now it's recruitment time. We need your help, Little Rock, to make this mapping day a successful campaign. If you've ever wanted to be a citizen scientist, now is your opportunity. We're looking for volunteers to drive and help navigate 12 routes on August 19th. You can choose to help with 1, 2, or all 3 shifts that day. We're spreading the word about Heat Watch through press releases, social media, email blasts, and our valuable partners in this effort, like MetroPlan, Little Rock Zoo, Hendricks College, Central Arkansas Water, NOAA, Pages, Little Rock Parks and Recreation, and Franklin's Charging Station. So for more information about the Heat Watch campaign and to sign up as a volunteer to help map extreme heat in Little Rock on August 19th, please visit our webpage, littlerock.gov/heat. Go to our social media for updates at SustainLR, or call us or email us with any questions. Call at 501-371-4646 or email recycle@littlerock.gov. And the Sustainability Office thanks you for your time and support as always.
Thank you so much. Let's give them a round of applause. Director Richardson.
Thank you, Mayor. One quick question. Thank you guys for a wonderful presentation. And I thought I heard one of the speakers make reference to some kind of geographical mapping of the hardest parts of our city. Do we have, from a general perspective, any idea where those areas are in our city? We are seeing the hottest parts of the city, much like we track crime and other things. Do we have any kind of indication or any kind of idea or any kind of information you can share with us that we can see and better help you guys prepare and deliver the service that you guys are delivering? I'm sorry.
Yeah, thank you for that question. There are a few tools out there that have been provided by federal partners. Most notably is the Tree Equity Score Map, also the climate and environmental justice maps out there. There we can see that there is a pretty strong correlation between limited tree canopy coverage and the effects of extreme heat. So what we expect to find is that some of the areas that may have had street or sidewalk projects, but the funding wasn't there to also install trees, paths from previous tornadoes, also densely developed areas in our urban core downtown.
Thank you. And is there anything electronically you can share with us to help us, again, better help you out? I love this flyer, but is there anything electronic that we can have to help you proactively address what you're trying to help us address in our city?
Absolutely. Yeah, I'll send that.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Brittany. We do appreciate you and Lenny and all the great work that you guys have been doing. Earlier today, city's directors, Virgil Miller, Andrea Lewis, and Joan Adcock and I all participated in the World Changers event as it relates to our housing neighborhood programs, where we're going to we are renovating existing homes of residents who are in need of having some renovations done. It was a great event. City Director Miller, would you like to give some comments?
Thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to make sure that we inform the board and certainly the public about this event and let them know that currently we will be looking for participants for next year. And they can go on the city's website, the housing and neighborhood programs, to apply. And it's just a great program. As you know, this is all part of our efforts to combat homelessness, because if you let a house deteriorate to the point where the residents can't live in it, they move out, the house continues to deteriorate, it gets destroyed, we lose housing stock, and people also become homeless. And so it's a great program. I want to make sure that Director Kevin Howard and his staff get recognized, the board get recognized for allocating community development block grant funds towards this. And it's a great program all the way around. And I just want to make sure that everyone got their accolades today.
Thank you so much, Director Miller. And again, we're grateful for the leadership of Director Kevin Howard and his entire team. As you know, the great work they've been doing with the homeless, micro homeless village, and now this, and it continues to go on. So thank you, Director Miller, Director Lewis, and Director Adcock, who were in attendance, and all the directors who helped make this possible. That being said, we'll now get to the agenda. We have additions, modifications. We have two modifications for today's agenda. M1, which is modification of the contract with Tetra Tech Incorporated for monitoring services of debris collection, as well as a letter of opposition for M2 of the Direct Capital Access Act of 2023. These will be added to the consent agenda. Is there a motion?
So move.
There's a motion and a second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, please say nay. Ayes have it. Madam Clerk, if you would, please read the consent agenda along with items M1 and M2.
The consent agenda consists of a resolution to authorize the city manager to enter into a contract with Michael Baker International in amount not to exceed $515,248 for the design of the Bowman Road Improvement Project Phase 2, Cherry Laurel Drive to Brody Creek, and for the purposes, a resolution authorizes the city manager to enter into a contract with Positive Results Lawn Services Incorporated in amount not to exceed $146,640 for the Pleasant Tree Drive Drainage Improvement Project, and for the purposes, funding from the 3/8 cent capital improvement sales tax and the limited tax general obligation capital improvement bonds. A resolution to amend resolution number 14,872 of October 1st, 2018 to authorize the city manager to modify the contract with Garver LLC for an additional amount not to exceed $101,773 for engineering and design services for the West 4th Street Drainage and Street Improvement Project from Valentine Street to Martin Street, funding from the 3/8 cent capital improvement sales tax and the limited tax general obligation capital improvement bonds. A resolution authorizes the city manager to enter into a contract with Cisneros Family Construction Corporation in amount not to exceed $761,011.50 for the Senate Drive Drainage Improvement Project, and for the purposes, funding from the 3/8 cent capital improvement sales tax and the limited tax general obligation capital improvement bonds. A resolution authorizes the city manager to enter into a contract with Gene Summers Construction Incorporated in amount not to exceed $357,003.60 for the Rebsamen Park Road Drainage Improvement Project and for other purposes, funding from the American Rescue Plan Act. A resolution to express the willingness of the city of Little Rock, Arkansas to utilize federal aid surface transportation program funds from MetroPlan for Broadway street improvements from 17th Street to Roosevelt Road and for the purposes. A resolution to express the willingness of the city of Little Rock, Arkansas to utilize federal aid surface transportation program funds from MetroPlan for Markham street improvements from South Cedar Street to Pearl Avenue and for the purposes. A resolution authorizes the city manager to enter into contract with Mack Mechanical Company in amount not to exceed $119,989.20 for the Public Works Department landfill pump station and for other purposes, funding from the American Rescue Plan Act. A resolution authorizes the city manager to enter into contract with Motorola Solutions Incorporated in the total amount of $57,515.51 plus applicable taxes and fees for the purchase of portable and mobile radio systems for the Little Rock Fire Department and for their purposes. A resolution to amend resolution number 15,892 of February the 7th, 2023 to authorize the city manager to modify the contract with Insight Public Sector SLED Center for an additional purchase amount of $160,772.40 plus applicable taxes and fees for the purchase of 50 additional cameras for the Little Rock Police Department Real-Time Crime Center and for other purposes, funding for the American Rescue Plan Act. A resolution authorizes the city manager to reimburse the Little Rock Convention and Visitors Bureau in amount not to exceed $71,552.71 for the cost of parking garage elevator repair and for the purposes. A resolution authorizes the city manager to enter into an agreement with Homemark Properties LLC doing business as Doxa Construction in amount not to exceed $767,201.50 to complete the stormwater system improvement plan at the Little Rock Zoo and for the purposes. A resolution authorizes the city manager to enter into a contract with Little Rock Regional Chamber of Commerce in amount not to exceed $500,000 to provide economic development consulting services and for the purposes. A resolution to amend Little Rock, Arkansas Resolution number 15,957 of April the 11th, 2023, to authorize the city manager to modify the contract with Tetra Tech Incorporated for an additional amount of $161,212 for monitoring services of debris collection related to disaster recovery from the March 31st, 2023 tornado and for the purposes. A resolution to oppose the Direct Capital Access Act of 2023 in order to protect Little Rock's nonstop airline service to Ronald Reagan Washington National Airport and for the purposes. That concludes the consent
Move
agenda.
for the adoption of the consent agenda.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, please say nay. Ayes have it. Director Hines.
Yes, Mayor, as we go into the grouped items, I just had a quick question on 14 and 18. I wanted to make sure that we are not waiving or taking payment in lieu for the Boundary Street improvements on either one of these properties as I read the write-up.
Mr. Honeywell. Or Mr. Collins.
Director Hines, the answer is no, we are not on any of those.
Okay. Thank you. That's all I need for clarification. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I just want to briefly acknowledge our airport director, Brian Malinowski, and his vice president, Shane Carter. I'm sure I just gave you a new title. I just couldn't think of it right now, but I know you're pretty high up in the leadership. That being said, there's already been some good coverage, but I want to acknowledge city directors Wyrick and Peck, who are the board liaisons to the airport commission. M2 is very vital to keeping our direct nonstop flight to DC. There's a lot of federal jargon that we don't have to get through this. This was something that was urgent, brought to us by city directors Wyrick and Peck, and we want to say thank you with your service as being liaisons and working with our airport commission and our airport leadership to bring this to our attention as they're working alongside our federal relations team to make certain that we keep this. So thank you to you all. Thank you all. So you don't have to stay for the rest of the meeting. All right, we'll go to the grouped items. Madam Clerk, if you would, please read the grouped items.
An ordinance to accept the national property holding annexation to add certain lands to the city of Little Rock, Arkansas, and for other purposes. An ordinance to accept the Potlatch, Deltic, Wildwood Creek annexation to add certain lands to the city of Little Rock, Arkansas, and for other purposes. An ordinance to accept the Potlatch, Deltic, Morgan Cemetery annexation to add certain lands to the city of Little Rock, Arkansas, and for other purposes. An ordinance to reclassify property located in the city of Little Rock, Arkansas, amending the official zoning map of the city of Little Rock, Arkansas, and for the purposes. An ordinance to approve a plan zoning development, establish a revised plan development residential titled Valerie Place, PDR, located at 14,309 and 14,617 Canis Road, Little Rock, Arkansas, amending the official zoning map of the city of Little Rock, Arkansas, and for the purposes. An ordinance to reclassify property located in the city of Little Rock, Arkansas, amending the official zoning map of the city of Little Rock, Arkansas, and for the purposes. An ordinance to reclassify property located in the city of Little Rock, Arkansas, amending the official zoning map of the city of Little Rock, Arkansas, and for the purposes. An ordinance to reclassify property located in the city of Little Rock, Arkansas, amending the official zoning map of the city of Little Rock, Arkansas, and for the purpose. An ordinance to declare it impractical and unfeasible to bid, to authorize the city manager to enter into a sole source contract with Air Cleaning Technologies Incorporated in an amount not to exceed $63,700 plus applicable taxes and fees for the purchase of one hose reel vehicle exhaust extraction system for the Fleet Services Department truck maintenance shop and for other purposes. First reading.
Move to suspend the rules and place on second reading.
There's a motion second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, say nay. Ayes have it. Second reading.
An ordinance to accept the Potlatch, Deltic, Wildwood Creek annexation to add certain lands to the city of Little Rock, Arkansas. An ordinance to accept the Potlatch, Deltic, Morgan Creek, Morgan Cemetery annexation to add certain lands to the city of Little Rock, Arkansas. I got to go back to number 14 that I failed to just read for the second time. An ordinance to accept the national property holding annexation to add certain lands to the city of Little Rock, Arkansas. An ordinance to reclassify property located in the city of Little Rock, Arkansas. An ordinance to approve a plan zoning development, establish a revised plan development residential titled Valerie Place PDR located at 14,309 to 14,617 Canis Road. An ordinance to reclassify property located in the city of Little Rock, Arkansas. An ordinance to reclassify property located in the city of Little Rock, Arkansas. An ordinance to reclassify property located in the city of Little Rock, Arkansas. An ordinance to declare it impractical and unfeasible to bid, to authorize the city manager to enter into a sole source contract with Air Cleaning Technologies Incorporated in an amount not to exceed $63,700 plus applicable taxes and fees for the purchase of one hose reel vehicle exhaust extraction system for the Fleet Services Department truck maintenance shop. Second reading.
Move to suspend the rules and place on third and final reading.
Thank you.
There's been a motion and second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, say nay. Ayes have it. Third reading.
An ordinance to accept the national property holding annexation to add certain lands to the city of Little Rock, Arkansas. An ordinance to accept the Potlatch, Deltic, Wildwood Creek annexation to add certain lands to the city of Little Rock, Arkansas. An ordinance to accept the Potlatch, Deltic, Morgan Cemetery annexation to add certain lands to the city of Little Rock, Arkansas. An ordinance to reclassify property located in the city of Little Rock, Arkansas. An ordinance to approve a plan zoning development, establish a revised plan development residential titled Valerie Place PDR located at 14,309 and 14,617 Canis Road. An ordinance to reclassify property located in the city of Little Rock, Arkansas. An ordinance to reclassify property located in the city of Little Rock, Arkansas. An ordinance to reclassify property located in the city of Little Rock, Arkansas. An ordinance to declare it impractical and unfeasible to bid, to authorize the city manager to enter into a sole source contract with Air Cleaning Technologies Incorporated in an amount not to exceed $63,700 plus applicable taxes and fees for the purchase of one hose reel vehicle exhaust extraction system for the Fleet Services Department truck maintenance shop. Third and final reading.
We've now had three readings. Are there any questions? Now have three readings. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, say nay. Ayes have it. I will now go to Madam Clerk, if you would, please read item number 23.
An ordinance to reclassify property located in the city of Little Rock, Arkansas, amending the official zoning map of the city of Little Rock, Arkansas, and for other purposes, first reading.
Move to suspend the rules and place on second reading.
There's a motion, is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, say nay. Ayes have it, second reading.
An ordinance to reclassify property located in the city of Little Rock, Arkansas, second reading.
Move to suspend the rules and place on third and final reading.
Second.
There's a motion, second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, say nay. Ayes have it, third reading.
An ordinance to reclassify property located in the city of Little Rock, Arkansas, third and final reading.
Director Hines?
Yes, is the applicant here?
Not, is the applicant here for item 23? You would approach the podium.
Hello?
I hear you. So this corner is of great interest because we've been about to spend a bunch of money making improvements. This is a relatively small piece of property with an existing structure on it. What are your plans for future development? This is quite an upgrade from a C1 neighborhood commercial to a C3. And honestly, our director of planning's told us that you're gonna not have a whole lot left to be able to put on this. So I just kind of get an idea of what you're thinking as far as redevelopment of the property.
Well, just so we're clear, I don't own the property. I'm acting on behalf of the owner.
Okay.
I know that they don't know exactly what they want to do with it yet, but they were just trying to get the rezoning for the property. So there's no exact plans for it at this moment.
Okay. I kind of seriously question the upzoning on it without any plans, but thank you for your
Okay. Yep.
candor.
Thank you.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, say nay.
Hey.
Ayes have it. Madam Clerk, if you would, please read item number 24.
An ordinance to amend Little Rock, Arkansas Revised Code, Section 2-1162 of 1988, to increase the salaries of members of the Board of Directors to $28,000 per year, to make other corrections to the code provision, to declare an emergency, and for other purposes, first reading.
Move to suspend the rules and place on second reading.
Motion, is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, say nay. Ayes have it, second reading.
An ordinance to amend Little Rock, Arkansas Revised Code, Section 2-1162, to increase the salaries of members of the Board of Directors to $28,000 per year, to make other corrections to the code provision, to declare an emergency, second reading.
Move to suspend the rules and place on third and final reading.
There's a motion, there's a second.
Second.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, say nay. Ayes have it, second reading.
An ordinance to amend Little Rock, Arkansas Revised Code, Section 2-1162, to increase the salaries of members of the Board of Directors to $28,000 per year, to make other corrections to the code provision, to declare an emergency, third and final reading.
We've now had 3 readings. Director Hines and then Director Phillips.
Thank you, Mayor.
Director Phillips. Director Hines had his hand up first.
Oh, okay. I thought you said Director. You said Director Hines, then Director Phillips. My bad, Director Hines. Sorry, Mayor.
Thank you. I've already shared this with Director Phillips, my feelings on this ordinance. I will be a nay vote on this. I do not think it is wise for us to be voting to approve, increase our own salaries. If we want to put this on as a ballot item in the November or next March, to let the voters decide if we deserve a pay raise, I'm in favor of that. I also have a huge issue with providing benefits to us as part-time employees when we don't provide the same type benefits to our actual employees. So I'll be a no vote on this. Thank you.
Director Phillips.
Thank you, Mayor. And I offered this ordinance, and I just want to confirm Director Hines and I did speak, and he did share those things with me, and I appreciate him sharing those with me beforehand. Mayor. Oh, okay. So I presented this ordinance on to raise the city board salary from $18,000 to $28,000 for a couple reasons. One, the board hadn't received a raise since 2013. In 2013, this board adopted ordinance number 20730. And per the minutes that are on the Little Rock City website, that vote was 9-1. There was one opposition to that vote, and it was Director Hines, according to the minutes of the meeting. At that time, in 2013, the board received a raise because I think there was a discussion that it hadn't been a raise for board members in 19 years. So the salary increased from $12,000 to the $18,000. And the conversations in 2013 was in comparison to others similarly sized cities, and those cities are Richmond, Virginia, Boise, Idaho, Salt Lake City, among a few others. When you look at the cost of living increase on the United States Bureau of Labor Statistics website, and if you literally, anyone can do this who's watching this meeting, you can go type in $18,000 from 2013 and what is the cost of living of $18,000 in 2023. And if you do that simple calculation on the government's website, it calculates it to $28,000. So that's how I got to that number. And if you look at the cities that we were compared to in 2013, all those cities have outpaced us. Richmond, Virginia, their part-time board members make $25,000. Boise, Idaho, with a population of about 220,000, their board members make $27,000. Salt Lake City, Utah, which has 203,000 people, literally just a couple hundred more people than the city of Little Rock, their board members make $40,000. So I put this forward trying to be respectful of what we've done in the past and be consistent with this board done in the past. It's been 10 years, and I've shared this publicly and with anyone who's listened. I don't think anyone takes a job with the idea that they would never get a raise. I don't think anyone takes a job with the idea that I only get a raise once every 10 years. So I think from a logic perspective, it makes sense for us to get a purely cost of living increase over the past 10 years. The other thing I will mention that I know there are some perceptions about the board giving itself a salary. And I understand that. And I know I'm out on a limb on doing this, but I'm okay being out on a limb. I do it. I've been doing it my whole life. But the question is, that's the system that we have. And it was not an issue in 2013 when this board voted to approve the salary in May of 2013, not during the budgeting process. I'm not sure why it would be an issue this time around. Secondly, I know there has been conversations regarding, well, we should get an outside group to look at our salary increases and get them to evaluate us on whether we're doing a good job. Two responses to that. One, all 10 of us, we get evaluated every 4 years by the public. And that's how we know if we're doing a good job. For my colleagues who've been elected multiple times, you must be doing a good job. Because when it was time for you to be evaluated, the people of the city of Little Rock said, you're doing a good enough job to be back on this board. So that's how we get evaluated, is by the public. Secondly, as it relates to a ad hoc group being formed to evaluate whether we need a raise or how much that raise needs to be, to me, that's just a perfunctory exercise, because ultimately, whatever they recommend comes back to us for us to vote yes or no on anyway. So I don't want to waste people's time by giving them a task that either if we like it or don't like it, we're going to make that call. And I think if we're going to make the call, let's just make the call. And this is not just about me, but I think this is also for the benefit of each of us and people who may consider to run in the future, who may think that $18,000 is not enough for me to take on the responsibility that all of us bear in doing this job. If you do the minimum wage calculation in the state of Arkansas at $11 an hour, I think minimum wage is $23,000 for a year. We're making less than minimum wage. And I've seen all of us work, and I know we're working a lot. We're just not coming to the board meetings on Tuesday night and voting yes or no. There's a lot of work that goes into being a board member outside of Tuesday night. Example being just tonight, Director Wyrick and Director Peck, members of liaison to the Airport Commission, you have to work with the Airport Commission to figure out what's going on there so we can come here and vote on a resolution to try to keep services available to our public flying back and forth to DC on a direct flight. So there's a lot of work that we do. And I don't think this increase from 18,000 to 28 is dramatic at all. It's really just a cost of living increase. And that's why I'm proud to stand, even if I'm standing by myself, and saying that I think all 10 of us deserve this raise. And for that reason, I ask all of you to consider voting yes in that regard. And Mayor, I will say this and then close. I understand when I got elected at the salary that I was elected for. Understood. Understand that I work for the city of Little Rock, for the people of the city of Little Rock. I understand those responsibilities, but that doesn't mean that it's inconsistent to be paid for fulfilling that duty, especially since it's been 10 years since this organization has received a raise. So with that, Mayor, I'll be quiet, and if any of my colleagues have any questions for me about this, I will take it. Sorry, I'm a lawyer, so I got one more thing. Sorry, Mayor. There was also a question about the insurance that Director Hines mentioned. I did confer with our city attorney, and if he can correct me if I'm wrong, but this insurance will be optional to us as board members, and it will not mandate us to incur additional monetary obligation for other part-time employees. So to the extent that was a concern, I've talked with the city attorney. That's not a concern as it relates to this ordinance. So with that, Mayor, I'll be quiet and take any questions from my colleagues since I sponsored this ordinance, if there are any. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Director Phillips. Director Miller.
Thank you, Mayor. I don't have any questions directly for Director Phillips, but we've certainly visited about this. He knows how I feel about this. This is the 7th month of the year. We're on the calendar year. You might as well say it's August. I look at fiscal responsibility. Certainly there is an emergency clause with this too, which means it will go into effect immediately. I've talked to Director Phillips. I think it ought to be more. Quite frankly, I think it needs to be 30,000. But I want to have that discussion during the 2024 budget. We will be discussing the budget here in the next couple of months, I would think. Certainly September, I hope, or so, we will be talking about that. When we talk about that, then certainly this ought to come up so that we can, if we agree that this is something we want to do as a board, we put those funds in the budget. At this point, there are any funds in the budget for this, and this being the 7th month, you might as well say it's 2/3 of the year is gone. And so from a fiscal standpoint, fiscal responsibility, I'm not going to support this, but certainly during budget discussions, yes, I think we need a raise. And quite frankly, I think it needs to be more than 28,000. I think it needs to be 30,000. But again, at this point, to just ask for this and then have an emergency clause with it like this too, I just don't feel, of course, I'm a banker too, I just don't feel like this is fiscally responsible to do an increase at this point and declare an emergency for it. I think it needs to be talked about during the budget discussions. And that's how I feel about this.
Thank you, Director Miller. Director Webb. Vice Mayor Webb.
No, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I appreciate that Director Phillips brought it forward, but I agree with Director Miller, and I think that it would be good to discuss during the budget discussions later in the year. But a couple of other things. Having had the opportunity to serve in the legislature, this was always something that was very contentious. And I know Director Phillips doesn't think that there's a reason to appoint the outside independent group to look at it. But when the legislature made that change, not only for legislators, but for constitutional officers, I thought it was a really positive change. That doesn't mean they have to accept the findings of that commission, but I thought it was a good change. And yes, we do get evaluated every 4 years, but I don't think that negates the value of the independent commission. So I would still support something like that. When Director Miller was talking about getting feedback, I sent an email to all of my neighborhood associations and asked for feedback on this and got a lot of feedback. And actually, the majority of the people who wrote, and they were not all people I know well or have worked with over the years, but the majority, overwhelming majority, said, yes, you all should get a raise. But I don't feel like I've talked to enough people, and I think if we discuss this later in the year during the budget, or if we would consider appointing an independent commission, I would be much more comfortable voting for it if they recommended the raise. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you so much, Vice Mayor. Director Peck.
Thank you. I have been in conversation with several of my colleagues and with Director Phillips, and I had told Director Phillips that I would be supportive without the insurance clause. There was some confusion about that, and if that would in fact open it up for any part-time employee. Listening to all this, and I'm glad we're having this dialogue. What you said, Director Marshall, makes a whole lot of sense to me, that we perhaps wait until the budget workshop. So Antoine, I'm changing my mind. I'm going to vote no, but I would like to revisit this in a few weeks. And Virgil, thanks for those words of wisdom. Thank you.
Thank you. Director Pierce.
Well, a couple of things. The first is that we have, as a board, two employees. One is the city manager and one is our city attorney. And we make a decision once a year on bonuses or raises for them. So there's a process on which we move forward on that. There is a state law that governs the mayor's salary as compared to the other two salaries being close, and so we made that decision in an orderly manner. I was here in 2013 when we did that, when we did the last raise, and one of the things that we often do as a board is that we came out of the session, we made the decision, but we also said that we were going to have some sort of process that we would reevaluate salaries on an ongoing basis. Now, of course, we forgot about that and never did it, but all of us made that decision we were going to do that. So my first point is that I appreciate what Antoine's done, and I think that he can factually say how he got to that number based on a cost of living index over that period of time. But whatever we do, or however you decide this, it is an arbitrary number that is decided by one or two people and brought forth. It is not something that someone, as the legislature does, or as Virgil's talking about that we discussed in the context of the budget, where you have some sort of process where we're looking at that as a whole. If you take, and this is just rough math, what we would be allocating for the rest of the year, it's an extra $50,000. So 10,000 of 10 times 10 for 5 months. And that has to come from someplace. It is not, there's not an unlimited pot of money, because if there was, I wouldn't have gotten back from vacation and read about people we need to get into apartment complexes and the people that need to be inspecting complexes. So my last 2 points are that when I signed up for this, I did not sign up for this looking for a big salary. And I think a salary is a nice perk, but it is if that's the reason you're on this board, then you have a real problem, because you should be doing something else on Tuesday nights rather than for this amount of money. And the second thing I will tell you is I go back to something that Steve Beck told me, the old, one of our old people here, who John Honeywell took his place. And we had a time where we had a bad ice storm, and everybody in the city was calling Bruce and calling Steve Beck and saying, would you preferentially come and do my streets? I need my street. I can't get out. This is what's going on. And I was talking with Steve and I said, kiddingly, please understand it was kiddingly, I said, could you just come do my street? And he said, I will preferentially do your street. I will promise you I'll do your street. I'll do it right before mine, but it's the last street I'm going to do. And I have a hard time taking money right now away when there are big needs we have that we could spend $50,000 or $120,000 on different things we need to do right now. So whether you're talking about the people that you and Ken have been talking about inspecting places, or you're talking about the letters I'm getting about at Repsman that we can't get the equipment to mow the place, or everything else in town, or we do have another police thing we need to do. This is money that comes from someplace. So if we've got $120,000 or $50,000 this year, my thought is we need to be discretionarily spending it on something that the people need, not that I need. And I agree with Virgil. If in the whole context of our budget for next year, we decide that needs to be done, and there's a fair way of deciding that amount of money, I'll look at it and probably vote for it. But to arbitrarily say that we're going to take $50,000 from someplace and give it to me is not the right way to do things to me. I've got to say, what does the city need? Where can we put $50,000? And I've got a lot of places I can put $50,000, and there's 9 other people in here who could also say that. So, Antoine, I appreciate your thought. I think that there's, between now and the end of the year, I would urge us to figure out something that we said we were going to do in 2013 on how to do this, bring back something that we all agree on or we can all really discuss. But right now, I can't vote for this because I think it is arbitrary, and I think it's taking away from our responsibility to take care of needs in the city. So thank you.
Director Richardson, then Director Lewis, then Director Wire, then Director Phillips.
Thank you, Mayor, and Director Phillips. Thank you too for your research on this. I think it's timely not to. Director Hines, remember, I think Director Phillips, I remember the vote, the 9-1 vote was clear, and Lance was the one who voted against this. What I don't remember is this level of conversation and discussion that we had back then that we're having now. And I think far too often we're consistently inconsistent on how we govern. A lot of times, excuse me, most times it's not the message, it's the messenger, Director Phillips. I think you've done your homework. You came back with some irrefutable facts, some numbers. And jokingly, this may deem, if we increase the pay, maybe have an impact on the people who want to run and serve on the city board. We may have people who are better than us that want to serve on the city board. It may happen that way, Director Phillips. It may increase the quality, not necessarily the quantity of people who want to sit up here and serve. But when I first got elected, we were paid, I think, what, $1,000 a month? Bruce, is that what we got as a stipend? I mean, $12,000 a year. It was $1,000 a month. I think I said month. Now, and to have a passion for this city and live in wards 1, 2, 6, or 7, you have to have another job in order to have some living expenses, to live a decent, normal life and raise decent children. And anybody who represents wards 1, 2, 6, or 7 knows this is nowhere close to being a part-time job. Nowhere close. If you guys get the calls that we get, and I know some of us get them all, but it's nowhere close to being part-time. 1, 2, 6, or 7, from a public safety standpoint, from an infrastructure standpoint, even from a private sector investment standpoint, it's full-time. It's more than going to airport commission meetings, Director Phillips. It's going to neighborhood association meetings. It's getting stopped in Kroger's and oh, thank you, Director Lewis. I mean, I don't go shopping anymore, Director Rod. I can't get out of the shop. I go to get really, seriously, a bag of some hot dogs, and I end up in the store for 2 hours hearing about everything that's bad, that's wrong, that's happening in the city entirely, but specifically my ward, your ward, and the older parts of our community. I don't think Director Phillips was presenting this as something that we can enrich ourselves with. We can the money is there, Dean. We find the money when we need to find it. When we want to find it. If we needed something for River Market for $50,000, we'd find it. We'd make Bruce and Sarah go find it and bring it back to us so we can approve it. And I've seen us have this delayed approach. Let's have a committee. Let's have the citizen input. Let's appoint a working group. Guess what the last time that happened, guys? 2018, when Director Hendricks proposed, not a special election, it wasn't going to cost us anything, but proposed adding at-large directors on the ballot, whether we need them or not. Somebody came back, Dean, I think it was you, my friend. You and I have a good enough relationship. I can point out, you said, no, we need some citizen input. We don't have enough citizen input. We had 7 of those meetings. The only person who went to every one of those meetings was Director Adcock. And she can tell you, with the exception of the first one that you went to in Southwest Community Center, every one of them, staff outweighed people in the meetings, without a doubt. They came back with recommendations for us before the 2018 elections. They came back with recommendations. What did we do with them? Left them on Bruce's table. We didn't implement them. We didn't come back and do anything with what we asked those people to give their time. We asked them to give their time. We had staff spend time, nights having meetings to get information that we didn't use. And in my pessimistic mind, I think we had no intention of using. It was just delaying the process. We keep delaying. I hear some say, well, it's a good idea. It makes sense. Statistically, financially, it makes sense, from a conceptual framework, but let's wait. Let's wait. And the amount that some of us are getting up here, you have to have a job to serve up here. And that's okay, because most of us care enough and work at different capacities that we help the city through our work. But this is another job, an extension of the work that we're doing. And I think that we have a selective way of sometimes procrastinating, delaying things, but there are some things that the right person says it's expedited. Next week, done. 8 days, 2 days. The nays, sometimes those are just perfunctory or symbolic. That's worked out before the meeting. We do it when we want to, and we would do it sometimes, unfortunately, and it hurts me to say this, depending on who says it. That's the unfortunate reality, unfortunate sadness, Director Peck, that I take with me when I propose things. That's the unfortunate reality that I take with me when I propose things. It's not what I'm proposing is a bad thing. It's that Director Richardson is proposing it. And Director Miller, I'm not saying this is you, but I've been up here long enough, and I jokingly tell my family and friends, if I discover the cure for AIDS tomorrow, I'm guaranteed at least 2 votes, possibly 3, but I know I'm gonna have 2 votes against it. Not that it was a cure for AIDS, but it was a wrong color pill. And I hate feeling that way, and I believe that. I know I'll have 2 nay votes, and possibly 3 recently, the way things have been going based on what I've been trying to propose. And I think we all have a great concern for the city. We all have a great concern for each other. I don't think what he's proposing is so far, I don't think that's way out of whack. I don't see it. Because if we need it for something else, we need it for a statue, or we need it for some kind of park enhancement, a water park, or whatever it may be, some new golf equipment at Rezoning, we'd find it. And we tell Bruce, go find it. And Tom write it up in a way so we can vote on it. And we'd vote, and 9 times out of 10, we would approve it. So Director Phillips, you're not out there on that limb by yourself. You're not on the tree by yourself. Director Richardson's out there with you. I'm holding your hand. So neither one of us fall. we're holding each other's hand. Like we do up here every Tuesday night, we're trying to help each other. I don't think that's so far-fetched. I think it's a comparison with other municipalities similar size of Little Rock. I think it's a comparison to the inflationary rate. I think in comparison to everything, he's done his homework, guys. But what do we want this new work group to come back with? That he hadn't showed it. He showed it to us. He's shown it to us. What is this new work group going to come back with? Are they going to find some other similar sized municipalities that are way below Little Rock that we can compare ourselves to? And ma'am, I'll be quiet on that. I wasn't going to say anything. I think it's a good idea, Director Phillips, and I thank you for doing it. We didn't have this level of discussion in 2013. Let me assure you of that. We did not have, when I think it was Director Kazort worked on this. Correct me if I'm wrong, Bruce. Was it not Director Kazort that worked on that? I think it was Director Kazort. Somebody can look it up. Maybe the news lady out there can look it up and find out when she did a report tonight. Director Richardson finally got her fact right. Got something right. It was Director Kazort. And it was based on us helping, I think our current mayor at the time, mayor was supportive of it because he thought that was going to be a segue for him to get a salary increase, and unfortunately that didn't happen. But Director Phillips, I appreciate you. I thank you for that, and I think you made a compelling case and really acknowledge and recognize it's not easy being up here, guys. And maybe this increased amount may increase the quality of the people who want to run and serve.
Thank you, Director Richardson. Director Lewis.
I just wanted to speak on this because, yes, as we all know, I am the newbie. And I got on this board, or I chose to run because I wanted to be a part of change and I wanted to be a part of progression. And I just want to commend Director Phillips for stepping out on a limb to get this done. I am, and not trying to be offensive at all, but I come with a whole different set of, I guess, qualities or attributes. I'm a wife, a mom, and a banker. Whole different background. I have a young son. So when I was out there, I basically ran for my people, my neighborhoods. They know the work that I do. I can't say that I wasn't happy with 18. I'm fine with that, and that's why I want it on the record. But hearing Director Phillips bring this to the forefront, it did raise an eyebrow with me because where do you go and there is no raise for 10 years? Like, that's a problem. There is an issue that needs to be addressed, and it's going to take people with progressive thinking. And I think of myself and the reason why I ran. I am hoping, and I know it, I don't have to hope, that my campaign sparked interest in other people, other Black and brown girls, boys too, because my son was able to be a part of that process, and he's able to say, well, my mom is on the board of directors now. But it just opens up different communities and different conversations where they can see, well, I too can be a part of that and I can bring change. So hearing Director Phillips and you, Director Richardson, that is true. The increased salary is going to bring a different set of individuals with different outlooks on this city and what it needs, and not be afraid to go forward with that change. Yes, it's an emergency clause, but Director Phillips, I feel like you may have done that just to show the urgency. Because when you think back to 2013, excuse me, 2013, and here we are, it's what is the problem? Why are we not making the change? I don't have all the background, and I will say that's an advantage, again, of being the newbie. But I can just tell you, being here, that is an issue, and I do hope that it does get changed. Do I have a lot of I'm trying to be optimistic, hoping that yes, when the 2024 budget comes for discussion, that this will be something changed. But looking at some of the examples that you all have given, and I'm just listening, it makes me think, well, no, it's not, because it's always going to be something. It's always going to be something else that needs to be corrected, that needs to be addressed. And it's like Director Richardson said, well, we'll find money for this, we find money for that. So I'm just, again, sitting here, eyes wide open, but I had to speak on that. Director Phillips, you are not alone. I was going to, or I still will, I will vote yes, because again, I didn't take this seat for the salary. I'm a banker and I love my job. I love First Security Bank, and that's where I'm going to retire. But to do this work, the people know the work that I do. I can't rely on a group coming in to assess Andrea Lewis, because I can't show them every phone call, every email, every meeting that I sit in. I don't have enough confidence that they will do right by me on an evaluation. So that's why I don't agree with that part of it. But I just wanted to be on the record on where I stand with this. And I do hope that as a board, and just years to come, that my situation does entice more young people so they can step out and not be afraid or not think they can't do it, because we do. We need change amongst this board to really move the city forward. So thank you.
Director Warwick.
Thank you, Mayor. I have to say, I was a young person when I started this job a number of years ago. I was happy to serve as the first Ward 7 representative in Southwest Little Rock. Didn't really focus on the salary at all. That was not what's important to me at the time. It was that we had representation for Southwest Little Rock. So today, in 2023, Dean made some comments regarding the needs that we have in the city. And I remember when I got on the city board, they said, well, we need to pave Alexander Road. You have a lot of cracks in the road. And I said, do not pave Alexander Road, not in front of my house. I said, you can go down to the west and pave down there. They need it. I don't need it. Don't pave my road. So that comes from, worrying about my citizens, worrying about the fact that I don't want anybody to think that I've got a leg up on any of the services that that we have in the city. I believe that the reason that I do this is because of self-gratification for the work I do, and then also in helping people. So I'm not supportive of this increase. I'm happy with the amount of money that's there, and everybody's made some really good points. Antoine, appreciate you bringing this up. We've had a conversation. I don't think I voted on this in 2013. I don't even think I was in the room when it was voted on. But at any rate, I'm a no vote on this at this point in time. Thank you.
Director Hines.
I'd call the question, Mayor.
Second.
My hand is up.
There's a question been called, Director Adcock. That's a non-debatable motion. There's a motion. There's a second. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 All those opposed, say nay.
Nay.
Roll call.
Roll call.
Nays have it.
Roll call, Mayor.
We're voting.
Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Mayor, I want to make sure what we're voting on.
Calling the
I was
question.
calling the question.
Okay.
Oh, calling.
Director Miller,
Never mind.
No.
But two people called the questions.
Director Richardson,
Yay.
Director Pack.
Okay.
Is it yay?
Yes, we're
Okay.
calling the question, right?
Director Hines,
No.
Director Lewis.
Made the motion.
I'm confused.
I can make a motion and vote against my own motion if
You
I
can't
want
do
to
that.
yield. If
Yeah,
I want to
for the
yield, that's a
presenting
it's a point of order.
Director Lewis,
She can ask the question.
Everyone,
We're in a roll.
Director Hines made a motion to call the question. That's a non-debatable motion. We put it before the floor for a vote. Nays had it, which would mean that you would continue the discussion. However, there was a roll call from Director Wyrick and from Director Richardson. Director Wyrick said she rescinded her roll call, but Director Richardson did not, so that's the reason why we're going. Again, the vote is yay to call the question or nay not to call the question. If you vote no, you're saying you want to continue discussion. Madam Clerk?
Director Lewis. Director Wyrick.
No.
Director Campuris. Director Phillips.
No.
Director Adcock.
No.
Vice Mayor Webb. Motion fails 2-7.
Director,
Yes.
Director, actually it's not Director, make sure. It's actually Director Peck.
Oh, okay.
I'll be going in the order.
Thank you.
You're next, Director Adcock, then Director Phillips. I'm just looking at the order.
And sorry to bring this up again. I think this is very good that we're having the discussion. Again, I'm going on record that I'm not supporting it. I do want to bring this up in the budget workshop. I do think that we have a raise. I agree with everything that Dean said. But one thing that I just have to say that was very troublesome, Director Richardson, is to assume that because you're in 1, 2, 6, or 7, that 3, 4, or 5 and at large don't work as much. That's very insulting. So I just wanted to say, love you, but we all work our butts off. So that was not the truth.
I apologize that came across that way. I was speaking in reference to the areas where we had the greatest, where we have the most needs, where we have the most crimes, where we have the most, on document, on record, the most condemned and demolished homes, the most vacant lots. So I know we all work. I know you
We all
work.
have problems.
And I apologize if you or anyone else felt that way.
Incredibly insulting.
Well, if I felt that way, if you felt that way, I apologize. That's not what I was intending to say or come across. I was just speaking to the need of those wards that I think have the greatest needs.
Thank you, Director Peck. Thank you, Director Peck. We'll now go to Director Adcock.
Yes.
Why are you talking?
Mr. Scrable, the public speaks when it goes to citizens communication and also when the board members are done. I understand. I'm doing this as a privilege right now by even engaging with you. I'm trying to share with you, once the city board members are done discussion, then we will go to your white card. Also, citizen communications after that. You're welcome. Director Adcock.
Yes. Director Campuris talked about things that he would like to see, and I think we could all give a shopping list that we would all like to see them. But I want to talk a minute about people. I wonder how many code officers and ambulance service people and people out fleet received a $10,000 raise in the last 10 years. I don't think many of them. Right now, we are losing code officers. We've lost 7, some to other cities because of money. And I know that Mr. Moore is working very hard to try to find money for the code officers. But I would feel very ashamed of myself if I sit up here and gave myself a $10,000 raise, knowing that we have city employees that are struggling every day to make ends meet. And we sit up here and we just say, and we all, Director Richardson, we all have jobs. We all do other things and everything. And we determine ourselves how much time we spend on what we do. But I agree with Dean. If he had $50,000, he has a want list. Kathy, Dean, Kathy, Virgil, BJ, every one of us would have things that we would want to do if we just had a little more money to spend, but we all need to live with what we have. And I will not be voting for this. I think that at a time when we know that our own employees are struggling, we did something about the police officers. We're going to need to do something about the code officers because we want the best for all of our employees in this city. And to me, the employees come before myself. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Adcock. Make sure before as I'm going in order, because Director Hines, do you still have your hand up?
I do.
Okay.
I'm going to call the question again just to advertise. So if everybody-
But you're not, actually, Director Phillips is next, but I just want to make sure as I'm going over hand up. Director Richards, is your hand still up?
Yes, it is, Mayor.
Director Lewis, is your hand still up?
I can take it down.
Okay. Director Phillips, then Director Hines.
Thank you, Mayor. And I do want to commend my colleagues for engaging in a discussion. I know when I started on the board a couple years ago, I used to be like, why we don't talk? But we talk now, so that's good. So thank y'all. Let me respond to a few things just for the sake of the record, for the public's watching. In response to the allegation that this is $10,000 raise, I would say that's inaccurate. I mean, it's 10,000 over, because we hadn't got a raise in 10 years. So it's just a cost of living increase, which is my understanding our employees get all the time. So I think that's inaccurate. Second, there was a statement made about declaring this an emergency. The emergency clause was listed because when we do any other raise for the 2 employees that we have or employees in the city of Little Rock, those raises take effect immediately. From a board standpoint, for something to take effect immediately, we need an emergency. I do know there are some members of our community who reached out to me before because they don't like the term emergency clause. They think that means we're declaring emergency. We're not declaring emergency. That just means for things to act quicker. And then I'm gonna come back to that in a second. Third, as it relates to the independent group, I think this was mentioned, and I'll give an example for the public just so everyone can understand where I come from. I think in 2018, the board, before I joined, voted for a form of government independent study group because there was a lot of conversation about the form of government in the city of Little Rock. This board selected, I think each person selected a person to join that group. That group met for like a year. They did a very thorough report about the form of government that they proposed for the city that was presented. No one took up that group on that. I joined the board and I told those folks, you did the work, I'm gonna bring forth the ordinance. I brought forth that ordinance. This board rejected that ordinance soundly. Is an example of we're gonna do what we wanna do. So we don't need to get a group to try to massage issues. If we're gonna vote, vote. If it's a no, it's a no. We move on. But we have done that exercise before by getting folks together, letting them do a lot of work, taking time away from their family, work, and then we say, you know what, we don't like that, and we didn't vote on it. So I don't want to go through that process because ultimately we get to make the decision as a city board. Fourth, I agree that there are many needs throughout the city, but that argument, I don't want it to be cherry picked. Whenever we give anyone a raise, we can say, well, instead of giving a raise to this department, we can go fix this street. Or rather than doing an ambassador program, we can uplift this neighborhood. So we make those type of decisions all the time. So I don't want us to cherry pick and make it seem like we're doing something so unusual in this frame of reference. And then lastly, Mayor, I'll leave it with this, 2 things. As my colleagues know, and anyone who follows me know that I'm a big fan of the Martin Luther King's letter from the Birmingham jail, and where he talks about the word wait. And a lot of times the word wait means never. So I'm sensitive. I'll just admit it. I'll be public. I'm sensitive when people tell me to wait, because you wait, and then you wait, then you wait, then it doesn't happen. And I'm about action. So if we're going to vote, if the vote's no, if it doesn't pass today, so be it. I will say last thing though, to being consistent with my colleagues and listening to everyone, saying, hey, this should be part of there's no money for this right now. I'm willing to amend this and say we vote today. We vote yes. It takes effect January 1st, 2024. And that way we can incorporate it into the budget. Trying to be respectful of my colleagues and hear everybody out. So I will offer that amendment, City Attorney, that we remove the emergency clause and we make this take effect January 1, 2024. That way we're not concerned about $50,000 that should have went here, that didn't go there. That way we're not concerned about not discussing this during the budget. That way when we have our budget discussions, we already know that when we're doing our budget discussion that the salary for the city board will be $28,000 going into 2024. So I'll offer that as an amendment to the parliamentarian and to the mayor. And I'll stop there.
Mr. Parliamentarian, since this is sponsored by the director, is that automatic? That should be an automatic amendment, correct?
there's no, anybody can offer an amendment. It still needs a second.
Gotcha.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay.
Roll call, Mayor.
Actually, I heard ayes, but you call for roll call. I heard ayes.
Roll call. I said nay.
All right.
Director Miller,
No.
Director Richardson,
Yes.
Director Pack,
No.
Director Hines,
No.
Director Lewis,
Yes.
Director Wyrick, Director Compuris, Director Phillips,
Yes.
Director Adcock,
No.
Vice Mayor Webb. Motion fails 3-7.
For the public to understand, the motion that just failed was was Director Phillips' amendment to his ordinance. We'll now go to Director Hines.
Call the question, Mayor.
For the motion to call the question, is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. Ayes have it. The question's been called. We've now had 3 readings. We've had debate. All those in favor of this ordinance, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, please say nay.
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 Nays have it.
I'm going to run it back with the roll call just to be consistent.
Yes, sir.
Are we done with discussion?
We got to do roll call, Director Lewis.
Director Miller,
No.
Director Richardson,
We're voting on,
the ordinance.
oh, yeah, of course.
Director Pack,
All caps, bold letters.
Director Pack,
Oh.
Director Hines,
No.
Director Lewis, Director Wyrick, Director Compuris, Director Phillips,
Yes.
Director Adcock,
No.
Vice Mayor Webb. Ordinance fails 3-7.
Now can we I just have one question. We heard all the feedback and it was mentioned putting it in 2024's budget. The amendment was to just say it can be discussed at that time for the 2024 budget, and it was still no. So I'm not understanding, well, what is it that we're saying here?
What you said,
Yes.
the
And I got an
difference
A
is,
and a B because I want to speak up too for our city employees. Again, I'm okay with 18. I am new. So we really can take me out. I'm just speaking on record. But what I'm also thinking about, our Director Adcock mentioned the enforcers. If our code enforcers are not getting an annual raise, I do feel like that is a problem. We have other city staff that's not getting raises. No, it's not 10,000 because if they are getting something, then it's not cumulative like what the directors are going through. But those are issues that I'm speaking from that need to be addressed. No one should be working for this city and being where they're not getting a raise 3, 4, 7 years. So enforcement, if we need to look at what they're doing, we need to do that. Directors, if we need to look at what other departments are doing, and if their salaries haven't been increased based off performance, then to me, those are corrections that need to be made.
Director Lewis, I think the answer to your first question is this. Director Phillips offered an amendment that would put in the $28,000 a year salary as a part of the budget, and the board would have to change that or vote against that at that time. I go to Director Miller, he thinks it should probably be more. I want to discuss it with the budget. So the question is, the question is, are you going to discuss it at the budget with a mandated amount, or are you going to discuss it at the budget with an open amount? That's what the no vote ended up meaning.
Well, I pray I see that day because I look forward to that discussion and what it's going to be like.
All right, members of the board, we've heard all of discussion on item 24.
Well, Mayor, I think someone took my hand down, and I think that.
Well, Director Richardson,
I understand.
Calling on you.
Back to the point that Director Phillips, I certainly thank you for making that amendment, because I think, once again, you've done very Perry Mason-like way of exposing the hypocrisy of our democracy when I heard about 3 or 4 of us talked about the value of having it included or talking about it or dealing with it in these processes with respect to next year's budget. But I also find it quite interesting when the late, great Director Hendricks talked about raises for these code officers and nothing but crickets up here. And at that time, the highest turnover rates in the city, Bruce, was in code enforcement officers. That was at 20%. Partly because it was a rate, it was pay they were getting, and also because of the work that was expected of them. And what we spent on replacing those code officers who had left at that time, that turnover rate thing was 20%. We ate that up, hiring and training new code officers. We ate that up. And whenever Director Hendricks talked about that, and I find it quite ironic that sometimes we can be consistently inconsistent. I know at one point in time, Mayor, you were being blamed or targeted for this board not functioning, which was unfair and untrue. And I remember Director Phillips said, okay, let's have some get-togethers. Let's get together after work. We don't need to have a work session. Let's just have get-togethers, just sit and visit and talk. You know how many we had? 1. You know how many of us showed up? Was it 4 of us, Antoine? Or 3?
4.
4. He was one of them, that's right. But I thank you for that amendment because you pulled over, you couldn't find the word to explain it. I think it's cover. It's a shield. And we go through these perfunctory processes to say we had involvement, to say we did this or we did that, when like you in fact said earlier, we already know how we're gonna vote for it. And that is unfortunately the politics of politics. And let's put people first, let's move forward, and let's make it, I challenge us that when we have messages that come before us, let's divorce the message from the messenger. Can we do that if we can? I really would appreciate that as we move forward. Let's divorce the message that's in front of us that we're discussing from the messenger. I've seen it since I've been here, Cappy. I've seen it. I have an example of it. I propose an ordinance, Tom, not to allow the tech park to use eminent domain. And I think I made that ordinance based on a report that you and Dr. Anderson had given about the group. When I made that ordinance, I had 3 votes, Director Hendricks and Director Warwick. After we tabled it for 6 months, based on a motion from you, Dean, and Director Adcock came back 6 months later with the exact same ordinance. And guess what happened again? It passed. The exact same ordinance. So if we can do this as we move forward, let's figure out a way. I know it's hard. Let's figure out a way to divorce the message from the messenger and look at the message. If it makes sense coming from Dean, it should make sense coming from Antoine.
Director Lewis.
I'm sorry, that's it, Mayor.
Director Lewis.
I took it down.
I'm asking. You took your hand down? All right. Now we'll go to citizen communication. Luke Scrabble.
Talk on the ordinance, right?
You got 3 minutes to talk on whatever you want to discuss.
Why am I not allowed to talk on an ordinance?
Because a city director called the question, and once the city director calls the question based on parliamentary procedure, there's no more discussion.
Public, it's our money, sir.
I've answered your question. You are invited to come speak during the 3 minutes of citizens communication.
Well, I'll tell you this. I want to see that parliamentary procedure. I want to see that ordinance. 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 I want Because the last mayor, if you had a white card, you got to talk before the vote. We're the public. It's our money. You are under law to spend it prudently. It's a damn good thing tonight it didn't vote. If you came into this job because you wanted money, we need to vote you out now. I'm here to talk tonight about the deliberate lawlessness by those we are forced to support with public funds. The board initiative must do policy statement, policy for a safe city. This shall be accomplished by providing protection through the enforcement of municipal laws, providing protection from loss or damage of property, and safeguarding individual liberties. Director, I hate the Constitution, Ms. Peck. Now, the definition of corruption is dishonesty or fraudulent conduct by those in power, something morally depraved. I came last week and discussed the fact that we have 10 directors. I have their signed oath of office there for everyone for every year it's been done. You swear to uphold the Constitution of the United States, Constitution of Arkansas, but then you'll strip me of my First Amendment rights as you are violating my Fourth Amendment rights. Director, I hate the Constitution. Now, the mayor's not exempt. On this flash drive, we've got 28 lawsuits that the mayor's been in. He signs an oath of office to say, I uphold the law, support the law. But we have the evidence that shows he breaks the law. The directors are here to help and serve, not to ignore the law, Ms. Adcock. You have signed that oath of office 29 times, 28 for BJ, 27 for Dr. Compuris. I've sent you over 8,000 emails asking for you to use your public authority to help to end the government corruption in the police department, in City Hall, Mr. Moore's office, the mayor's office, Kevin Howard's office, John Honeywell's office, Jamie Collins' office.
Mr. Scrable.
We don't pay you to
Mr.
break the
Scrable.
law,
Mr.
Mayor.
Scrable, you've exempted your time.
Thank you for allowing me my
Mr. Scra-
privilege
you're
to
welcome.
exercise my First Amendment rights.
You're very
Thank you.
welcome. Thank you so much. Mr. Marr, did you have your hand up?
Yeah, Mayor, because of the break and everything, over the holiday, I've sent a few, contracts under 50,000. Anybody have any issues with any of those, so we can go ahead and move those forward?
No issues.
Thank you.
Members of the board, Director Webb, Vice Mayor Webb.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I have a couple of questions I would like to ask. I know it took us a while to get the contract over to United Way, and I wonder what the status of that is. Have they signed the contract, and are we ready to start to disperse the funds?
They've been going back and forth with the attorneys on this stuff, so that's my understanding.
Do we expect to have that resolved soon?
That's always the expectation, but when you're dealing with attorneys. Just being honest.
To Director Phillips.
We're shooting to have it done as quickly as possible.
Okay, and one other question. Last week, Director Peck raised an issue about the.
But I do want to commend the city attorney, his team, for getting that out and working on it and things of that nature. But.
And I just have a lot of constituents who've been asking me about that. They're still trying to get back on their feet, but that would certainly go a long way to helping them.
It's an urgent matter, but they also.
I understand.
They got to, for their fiduciary standpoint as well.
Thank you. Director Peck raised a question about some development on Cantrell. And I know that the zoning laws are such that there are, I think, 125 or 130 different choices of what people can put when it's zoned. I think it's, I don't know if it's zoned C2 or, I think it is zoned C2. But, and Director Peck asked about a moratorium, and I'm not sure that's something that we would want to pursue. But I guess this is to the city manager, or maybe you or the city attorney. Are there options for us to pursue about the type of development that's going on out there?
I think that's more of a question for our planning director. Clearly, I think we can do whatever we want to do in regards, as long as it's legally viable. So that's, I think that's the answer. We can legally do it. The city attorney would have to draft that. But I would say probably what's more prudent is it would create some other issues on different board actions of the past if you did that, and it'll create a lot of discrepancies. So I would shy away from that. Otherwise, you have a lot of people calling each of you saying that you voted one way for this. So it's best to try to keep it as uniform as possible and allow the planning commission to kind of lead in that effort. Protects everybody that way. But if you want to do a moratorium, yes, you can do a moratorium.
Or the other option is to change the zoning laws.
Yes.
Thank you.
But again, changing that zoning law would only affect that one. It would affect everything else that's been done before or going forward, because you would have to grandfather, I guess, the others. Vice Mayor, any more questions?
Thank you.
Director Phillips?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Before we take up the motion in the second, and I will call for the vote, I do want to share a few different things with members of the city board. As we have, I know many of you have had conversations over the past several months as it relates to a need, a desire to pursue a sales tax election. There are clear timelines that go before that. If we are to pursue a sales tax election for the November election, we have to have things done by September the 5th. And then also, if we're going to pursue one in March, there's a timeline, I believe, sometime in January from that standpoint. That being said, I've had many different conversations with many of you in regards to thoughts, working thoughts, things that you all have shared that you would like to see. And of course, I wanted to make certain that I received as much buy-in as possible, knowing that until you see something on paper, there's still a lot more discussion to have. But we do have a timeline of September the 5th. I think that's the best time to go for it. I do think if you go for it in March, it creates some other realities that we have to consider. I don't think this is something that we should wait on. I think many of us can't go to any town hall meeting, any neighborhood association meeting where our residents are asking for us to address more needs. And the question often is, well, we need to pursue a sales tax. And so I'm laying this before the board that will come before you sometime next week. I think what's best to kind of flesh some things out to really get the ball rolling is to have a working session sometime next week with members of the city board. We'll find a time that works well for everyone. We may not be able to work well for everyone, but if we can get as many people as possible, that'll be great. And then, of course, for those who aren't able to attend, we'll make certain that we have, clearly, there are a lot more times to have conversation about it. I'm not saying that we're going to have an ordinance next week, not at all, but we got to have some public discussions about it as we move forward. And so I would just look for if we're throwing out some dates, possibly. I know Friday evenings for certain board members, Friday afternoons are pretty hard, so we're not looking at a Friday afternoon. Clearly, we're already here on Tuesday. but look for maybe like a Thursday of next week during the morning and a working lunch type of thing for those that are able to make it. But again, we don't have a definite time. If we need to push it back a couple days, we will, but we got to start talking. I'm going to share some things with you as I continue to listen. I don't have anything to share because we need to have a conversation first. Again, I want to bring these collective remarks that you all have shared with me in passing over the past period of months and just kind of flesh it out to kind of move forward. I think this is something we have to do as we want to continue to focus on our city moving forward from a quality of life and place standpoint. As I've also shared with many of you, it's going to be centered on 4 Ps, which stands for parks, public works, sports and economic development, and public safety. And then that's the concept. We'll fill in the details with each of you, and as we all work together to have a work session here soon. Director Peck, any questions?
Yes, Mayor, not about that, but Ashley just called to my attention that there's another card from a citizen that wanted to speak.
There he is. I apologize, there is. We'll bring you up. You can come up, Mr.
Thank you.
Please come, Mr. Sergio.
Long meeting, so I'll make this pretty short. My name is Lieutenant Colonel Stan Evans, retired. I live in Ward 4, Director Peck, and I've communicated with Ashley this week, and I want to tell you she's top notch, very professional. And I'll sum this up real quick. Last Thursday, a group, contracting group, came into our area, and they were cleaning the sewer lines. And that needs to be done. I understand. I'm an interdisciplinary scientist. I understand compliance, of working that, of working quality and regulations. And so they were working, and we hadn't had any trouble with our sewer line, none. Well, on Friday, late Friday afternoon, I got in and I jumped in the shower and getting ready to do something on Friday night with my wife. And when I got out, I noticed the commode was gurgling. I thought, that's not right. We've had no problems. Long story short, I spent the next 2.5 hours under my house and in my yard with my plumbing rep that we use. And he said, looks like your line is stopped, I think, right at where the service line joins the main sewer. Well, that's where they were doing the work. $1,086 later, which the work continued into Saturday, we got it cleared. Okay, problem resolved. So from Saturday to Sunday, no problem. They come back Monday. And I did go out and I told them, I said, hey, guys, we had trouble with our line. I said, here's the bill. Would you like to see it? Guy shot a picture of it. He was nice. Well, they worked all day Monday. Everything was good. I ran water all day just to make sure everything was fine. They leave, line stops up again. The FBI usually calls this a clue, y'all. When you get repeat things happening time and time again. So I called the Water Reclamation Authority. I want to give you a lot of credit, Mayor Scott, directors. This young man was spot on, sort of like Ashley. Good job. He said, I'm gonna put an emergency ticket in. We'll be out there tomorrow morning. You know what? They showed up just like they said they would. Professional, proficient. Amazingly enough, the consulting group got there before them. And they were opening a line across from me. So I walked across there and said, guys.
Lieutenant Colonel, I hate to do this,
yes,
but we have to stop you like we stop everyone else after 3 minutes.
No problem.
But thank you so much for what you shared about our city team members. We do appreciate you, and we also appreciate your service.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Could I ask a question?
You're a city director. You can definitely, you can ask.
Sir, are you still having a problem? Because Ashley sent me the email, and I know at the time we didn't know if it was
Yes,
public
ma'am.
works or water reclamation. I
Well,
want to know if he's,
they came across the street. I'll sum up this way. They opened our line,
they is
the consulting group that was doing the work. Here's my concern.
$1,000?
$1,086.
Sorry about that.
And here's the thing, Mayor Scott. I understood what was going on. My background is such I could understand everything that was happening. I don't want this to happen to anyone else in any of your districts. I don't care where they're at. I don't care if it's 2nd Street. I don't care if it's Broadway. I don't care. Because it was a tremendous inconvenience for someone to come in. Now, they were nice. They opened the line today. But this should not have happened at all. And it can happen. On our street, there's about 15, 16 homes. If it just happens in 1 in 15 or 16 homes, let me tell you, in some of these homes, I had to pay $1,086 because over the weekend. Okay? If it'd been through the week, it would have still been over $500. I'm just saying there needs to be some notification method to let residents know what's going on out there. I've worked with this before, so I knew what to do. Not everyone will. And I think that I appreciate their work. I know it's hard work, Mayor Scott, these consulting groups that are doing this. But if they stop something up, that should not be a homeowner's problem.
I agree, and I'm on it.
Well, I appreciate
Make
it.
sure you have my cell phone number. Will it change it? But we will fix it.
Well, I appreciate it. I appreciate the time to address this body and you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Lieutenant Colonel.
Yes, sir.
Appreciate you. Director Phillips, your hands up, or did you?
No, I had my hand up when I called the question.
There's a motion second. All those in favor, please say aye. All those opposed, say nay. Ayes have it. Meeting adjourned.
Oh.